What's up, everyone? Kevin Allen here, aka The Geek. And we're here with another Showdown breakdown. Where my turds at? Where we look at tonight's Monday night showdown between the Giants and the Bucs for all the monies. We're trying to break this down from a Fanduel and Draftkings perspective. So the way we're going to do this is I'm going to start with just a general breakdown of this game and kind of what's going on. And then we'll look at salaries and pricing. We'll get into captain plays and all of the specific MVPs and the details and the who's and the whys and the hows. Now, we smashed last night's breakdown, and we're going to do it again tonight. Last night, I can't even remember what the fucking game was. Dallas at Philadelphia. You know, we smashed it because Dallas was a team that had the third string quarterback playing. I had no shares of Zeke Elliott. That was an obvious fade. And I love stuff like that. I love it when the field doesn't really get it. And we have some situations like that again tonight that we can get into. But last night we said play Eagles defense and captain, play onslaught, 5-1 onslaughts of Eagles to Giants. And that's what took down the tournament. We're going to do something very similar tonight. We've got a situation in this game that is very, very lopsided. So I want to break it down. First of all, the Bucs are giant favorites in this game for good reason. The Bucs are coming in as 12.5-point favorites on a game with a 45.5-point total. What that means is the Bucs are expected to score 29 points tonight, whereas the Giants are only being given 16.5. And my goodness, I don't think they're even getting to the 16.5. I'm number one. If you're a bettor, I would bet the under here. 45.5 is too much. I'm in New York. The wind is blowing outside. As a matter of fact, right now, and I'd love a wind report from any of you guys, but right now, I'm in fear of losing power. And I'm not far from where the game is going to be played. And we're worried about losing power because of all this crazy wind. So let's keep that in mind. Now, to talk about this game, just when I said strength on weakness, let me make it very, very clear in case it wasn't. Bucs run defense. Second in DVOA, first in yards allowed per carry, meaning they are essentially number one. The Giants running offense, 25th in DVOA, 27 yards. It's a strength on weakness, but wait, there's more. The Bucs passing defense this season, number one DVOA, the best in the league. Oh, and the Giants will oblige with their 28th ranked passing offense. In other words, the Giants are terrible offensively, and the Bucs are really, really elite defensively. That creates an ugly situation that I don't think, outside of crazy flukes and some weird shit going down, that does not bode well at all for the Giants to do anything here. Now, let's look at the numbers on the flip side. Giants have actually been less than terrible against the run. They're actually ranked 11th overall in DVOA. But I don't think that's going to matter here because they're getting ready to be smashed, and it's a one-game sample size. The Bucs running offense, 12th overall, 21st yards per carry, so they've just been okay. Again, what do we weigh more heavily, though? We weigh a massive favorite. 12.5 points favors the running game on a team significantly. Giants' run defense has not been that bad, but they're just middle of the road, so they aren't scurrying me. I'm not scared of that. Okay? Giants defensively, their pass defense has been pretty bad from a DVOA perspective. They're ranked 27th overall. The Bucs passing offense has been actually quite good. They're ranked 8th overall, but more importantly is the matchups and the wind. So we have two other factors going. We have James Bradbury, who I consider to be one of the elite cornerbacks in the National Football. Here we go. Thank you. It's blowing outside, man. I'm here. I'm scared for the power. The gusts are crazy. we'll talk about what that means because everybody's getting on the wind reports, and we gotta talk a little bit about that too because that affected yesterday's slate quite a bit, and there's a lot of controversy over how much attention we should pay to the wind. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But before all of that, I want to talk about James Bradberry. He is an elite corner. He will be blanketed on Mike Evans for most of this game. Mike Evans is the number one. Godwin is out for this game, and Evans has gone up against Bradberry historically quite a bit. Because he played for the Panthers and Evans always played for the Bucs. So these guys would meet a few times a year. They're familiar with one another. For the most part, Bradberry has mooted the fantasy production of a Mike Evans. But how far should we take that? Because Mike Evans is the most obvious play probably on the entire slate when it comes to a chalk play. And I'm going to be curious. Actually, let's take a look here and see what his ownership, he's being projected for 11% captain ownership and almost 50% ownership overall. Yeah, we know about the error on the matchups tab. Don't worry about it. The matchups is not for the quarterback. That tab does nothing for the quarterback position. But I did see that, Michael. Thank you for pointing that out. Severe wins are due to good comments. I love it. I like that. All right. So anyway, Bradberry. How much should we put into the two factors working against Mike Evans? He's going to be chalk, but you've got James Bradberry, elite cornerback play, plus massive wind, reducing the style of pass that someone like Mike Evans will get, which he's a deep ball guy. He's never been a yak guy. He's not a crossing pattern guy. He's a deep pass guy. He's also a quick pass to the end zone for the touchdown guy, which there's reason to play him only because it might only take a 12-point performance from a wide receiver to be in the nuts lineup. This is going to be a lower scoring overall slate. So you have reason to play him, but there's a lot of reason to fade also. So let's just be on top of that. So matchups wise, though, this looks really, really bad for the Giants side of the football across the board. I mean, again, Tampa's an elite defense and Giants are a bad offense. That's a brutal combination. Brutal. So we're going to have to pick out at least, triple running back. I like that. We're going to have to pick out at least one or two, probably just one player from the Giants, maybe two, and we'll probably cycle through 3 or 4 players that we kind of like and we don't hate and we don't mind playing, and we'll go through the reasons why. But this is setting up to be a smash game. Now, if you're a contrarian-minded person, if you're like, I'm not doing what the field does, I don't give a fuck, right? A lot of people are like that. You might build a lineup or two for the Giants don't lose and get destroyed scenario. I don't think I can get there. 12.5-point favorites. Even if the Giants don't lose, it's probably because they're just playing really, really well. I can't see them not losing, but it means they're playing really well defensively. The wind is affecting the game and just no one's scoring. That's like the scenario where the Giants, cover the spread. They're playing really great defense. And just the Bucs aren't scoring either, and so windy. No one can move the football. Now, speaking of the wind, the wind, let's just talk about the wind over the weekend, because there's a lot of controversy over weather conditions and how much it affects the games. If you think the wind didn't affect the games yesterday, you're crazy. It definitely affected the games. It affected all of the games for the most part that the wind was blowing heavily. We saw Cleveland and the Raiders just have a gross offensive game yesterday. We saw that. We saw Green Bay, really, it was like a lot of running. Sure, Adams got his, but he didn't get a lot of yardage. He just got a bunch of touchdowns. They're still going to throw for touchdowns. In other words, just because fantasy scoring is muted a little bit, reduced just a smidge, that doesn't mean that these guys aren't going to catch passes. It just means they're less likely to hit ceiling games compared to if it wasn't crazy windy. Yeah, and that's right. Greg had the leg had the big kick because sometimes the wind is at your back when you're a kicker. Like when you're kicking, sometimes it's at your back. You can kick a little bit further. But we also saw kicks into the wind that completely went crazy bananas bonkers yesterday. So something to keep in mind. Now, let's get into some DFS Army tools to help us figure out who the plays are, because we already talked about the overall scenario of this game. The Bucs smashing the Giants. We already talked about an approach to lineup building, a basic approach, which is Bucs onslaughts, Bucs defense, all of that. Now let's get into the specifics. Now, one of the things I like to use here is the matchups tool that we have over at DFS Army. It's really important because I want to get a sense of the snap counts for players on each team. Let's talk about the Bucs for a minute. We'll talk about their primary players. So let me make this larger here. All right, so here on screen, you've got Tampa, Tom Brady, whatever. That's not a matchup situation. He'll be out there all the plays. Last week, Chris Godwin got hurt for the Bucs. So what happened after that? Let's try to figure out who got the passes, who was in the game. Mike Evans, 86% snap count, but only a 5% target share. And Mike Evans is sitting at a 15% target share on the season. The Bucs spread the football around. They have not concentrated offense on one guy so far this season. It's just been what they've done. And maybe that's a staple of Tom Brady, although maybe it's not. I don't know. It's just how they've played this season so far. Godwin had been actually the favored target, but he's out. He's out for this game. When Godwin came out, Scotty Miller stepped in. And last week, even though Miller has only a 12% target count on the season, last week he popped up at 22%. That's affecting his salary a little bit on DraftKings. He's priced up, but I think he'll be popular here. And we could take a look at his game log in a second. But Scotty Miller will be an interesting pivot off of Mike Evans. Everybody wants to play this Bucs offense. But again, Evans not the best matchup. So maybe, we could pivot over to Scotty Miller as the guy who's on the field quite a bit. And I think his numbers will go above the 60% in a full game without Chris Godwin. He'll get a little more. Interesting to check out the snap count of Rob Gronkowski, 74%, 81% on the season. So he's been out there a lot. But what we got recently is we've had a bump in his target share, 20%. He seems to be emerging as, quote unquote, the guy. Old school Gronk. Might get a Gronk smash in this game. Got a feeling about it. Again, it's going to be hard to throw deep. Mike in the crazy wins. That's Mike Evans. But I want to just go through the rest of these pass catchers. Then we'll talk about the running backs. But Scotty Miller seems to be actually much, at least equal to a target compared to Mike Evans. But I think his ownership will be lower. And let's just take a look at ownerships and see what it says. So if I sort by projected ownership, Scotty Miller coming in at 25% with Mike Evans coming in at 50%. So let's be aware of that, guys. Let's be aware of that. All right. Now, there's more. There's a lot more. Scotty Miller. Lower owned than Evans, but potentially the same or higher target share in a better matchup. Of course, Scotty Miller has been forgotten a couple games, too. He's gotten zeros. It could happen. Anything can happen. Now, the other two guys that we're going to have to account for, and this is in the turd zone. So let's turn on the siren and talk about some turds. Here we go.
Tell no to the no. Tell no to the no. Yeah, to the no. Tell to the no. To the no.
Had to get the turd zone going. Diving a little deep here. Tyler Johnson and Justin Watson are the two sort of fill-in guys, the last pieces of the passing offense. I think Tyler Johnson, if we look at his numbers from last week, seems to be sort of the leader in terms of getting that WR3 role for the Bucs. What this means, couple turds, going to get some passes, 5% target share. One of these guys, Watson didn't even get thrown to last week. Tyler Johnson got a couple of passes last week. So these are turds that we have to account for in this game, period. Tyler Johnson, probably the better of them. Most important, let's talk about the Bucs running back situation, because this is where I think the money's going to be made. What do we know about Vegas lines? We know that teams that are giant favorites tend to lean on wait, Kenny G is throwing out some names of turds that, he just wants me to play the song. let's get into the running backs. This is where the money's going to be made tonight, guys. The coaches come out and said Leonard Fournette is our passing downs back. Leonard Fournette last week in a game where the Bucs were leading the whole time and smashing. Leonard Fournette had a 44% rush percentage compared to Ron Jones' 52%. Well, you might say that's about equal. The snap count for Fournette, 56% to 43% for Jones. So it was just these two guys, and Fournette getting more of the snaps. Fournette, 17% target share. Jones, a not that terrible 5% target share. So we've got a game that sets up really well for the running game. We've got wind. We've got gusts. We've got all of that going on. Now, Tom Brady is from the fucking New England. He's used to throwing the football in some wind. He can deliver a pass in windy conditions. Let's get that straight. Having some wind doesn't mean that they're not going to complete a pass. That's not what that says. But it's probably going to be less than what it would be. If this was a main slate game, we would just be like, fuck this game, right? Fuck the passing game. We'd just be on the runners. And we'd be all over these running backs because they're in a great spot. I like Fournette as my top play on the slate. My number one captain play. And my favorite play on the slate. Ron Jones Jr. is in play as well. And I don't mind playing both of them together, Jones and Fournette, because if this goes the smash route, if this goes the Bucs defense, running game, don't need to throw that much, there's a possibility that Tom Brady doesn't even need to do all that much, that just the running game takes over. It doesn't mean that he won't throw for some touchdowns, but it also means that there's a reasonably decent chance that Tom Brady isn't the nuts MVP on FanDuel. Normally, I would just play Brady. I'm not touching anything from the Giants as an MVP. I don't agree that he would get the larger role due to the blowout, but I don't know for sure. But why would he? He's the passing down back. He should be in the game when they're behind. The blowout, no, I don't think that's the case, Cola. I think that Fournette, and it's weird because Ron Jones has played really well. It's strange. Ron Jones has played really well. All right, so Michael Nye, that approach actually should have won the million last week, and you could definitely do it. I don't mind playing Giants defense. They're a pretty good defense. So, I think the Giants' best chance of scoring is like some sort of a turnover, pick up, a fluky turnover. That's a great, absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. Giants defense is one of the turds that we're going to throw. What we're going to do for the most part, and I think the most common style of build that you should be doing on, let me throw up FanDuel here, DraftKings here. The most common style of build is going to be taking $5 and mixing in one turd from the Giants, right? So let's say I just said my favorite guy is Fournette. Look, he's cheaper. Look, he's cheap too. I mean, come on. This is the best play. Now we say, oh, we like Scotty Miller. I'm not doing these kickers, but Bucs defense for sure. We want to get some of that. Look at Bucs defense at 7,400. The last time DraftKings priced up a defense like that, it was the Patriots. They wound up scoring like 21 or something crazy against the Jets on a showdown last season. It was like the defense was the most expensive play on the slate. Thoughts on Golden Tate? Maybe Ingram. All right. Here's the beautiful thing, Ricardo, about DFS Army tools. We get to check the snap count for Golden Tate. And look at what's going on here. All right. I'm glad you asked. We didn't get to the Giants side. You know what? Let's get to that. I'm not even going to do how we're making a lineup yet because, Ricardo, you got me back on this. If that's the case, that's going to make amazing. Guys, let's get some wind reports going here while we're doing this. It's blowing right now outside, but I don't know what that means for tonight. Who's having a bigger night, man? You just got here, man. Rewind. Start from the beginning. Start from the beginning of the video. Now, check this out. All right. You asked about Golden Tate. What do you see on screen here? Golden Tate snap count, 65% on the season, 45% last week. What's going on there? You know whose snap count has gone up a little bit? Caden Smith, 58%. And Evan Ingram, he's still up there. So, and of course, Sterling Shepard returns. So here's what's going on with the Giants. Number one, Golden Tate has only gotten a couple of passes over the last 3 weeks. He's not being involved in the game all that much. But more so, the Giants' offensive line is so bad, and the pressure that they've been taking is so bad that here's what I think will happen. They're going to have to roll Caden Smith and Evan Ingram on the field at the same time for most of this game. Okay, we're going to forget Golden Tate. What I'm explaining, they're going to have 2 tight ends on the field. What we're going to see is a spike in snap count for Caden Smith. And, and Ingram will keep his 81% share because when you have a great defensive team like Tampa, you've got to protect the passer better. So what they're going to do is put a second tight end on the field and run just 2 wide receivers with 2 tight ends and Gallman as a running back / pass catcher. Okay, so that's what I expect to see tonight because they got to protect. They got to protect Jones. Yeah, I mean, OG, if you were with us last night, man, we freaking we smashed that. I mean, I don't even know what to say. Yes, did we have a rough main slate? I felt like we made up for it on the Showdown. Like every lineup I put in cash, by the way, every single one. Who's a better blocker, Lewis or Gallman? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. So, all right. Gallman. So let's talk about the Giants' offensive pieces before we get into breaking down anymore. Because then we'll talk about MVPs and cap. It's it's noon. It's an early Where My Turds At show. So we could take it a little bit longer than we normally do. If you like a short, quick, snappy breakdown, you got to wait for someone else. That's not how I roll. So here we go. Giants. Now, this says Carson Wentz. That's an error in the spreadsheet right here. It's of course Daniel Jones, but we don't care because the matchups tool is not for this. Actually, let me show you something pretty fun. On our power ranking sheet, do I have that open? Oh man. I was hoping I had opened it. On our power ranking sheet, the numbers for the Giants are crazy low, like 70 yards and 180 yards passing, 60 or 70 yards rushing. Like our prediction for Giants offense in this game is absolutely horrific. And again, that comes down to what I said in the beginning with the matchups just being brutal. Bad offense against great defense, it doesn't go well. But somebody's got to catch a pass. So let's see who are the guys that are on the field. Darius Slayton, Sterling Shepard just came back last week, and of course, Evan Ingram. Now, actually, if you look at the matchups themselves, Evan Ingram has the best matchup of them all, and he's somebody we have to keep in mind. Again, assuming windy conditions or not, but Evan Ingram, the tight end has been a little bit better versus Tampa. They do have that style of defense that opens up the middle of the field. Why doesn't have red zone targets? This spreadsheet is supposed to be a quick read. We have that information on the full blast research station, to be clear. Yes, here we go. So, Justin, you're breaking it down. That's right. But against WR1, because of Bradbury, he's the only thing good going on this defense, which is why I think it works out even better for kind of fading Evans. Not fading fully because, like you said, Evans doesn't need a 30-point or a 20-point game to be the highest scoring wide receiver on the slate. That's the challenge. He could just catch 1 touchdown, 3 passes, 60 yards and a touchdown, and he gets there. But let's continue to look at the Giants side here a little bit. No, there's no value to Giants backups with potential. They're not going to bring in the backups. That's not a thing. That's not a thing. So here's the deal. It's going to be Wayne Gallman as the primary. Wayne Gallman is good. He's a good player. Of course, the Tampa defense is very, very good as well. But since Gallman is a pass catcher, I actually like Gallman. He's one of my favorite of the one-off Giants turds that we're going to be forced to play in this slate. Golden Tate's a no-no for me. If you're mass multi-entering, sure, but this target percentage is terrible. The snap count is down, and with Shepard back and the way the Giants are going to run 2 tight end sets in a game like this where they're going to be under pressure, I don't see Golden Tate just on the field enough to really huge difference. Shepard came back last week, possession guy, and he's another guy that we have to consider because he's running low A dot routes compared to Slayton, who's more of the deep play guy. Again, the weather conditions will play just a smidge into this. If the wind is not as horrific for tonight as what it seems like, and again, we've got conflicting reports, then, maybe your deep ball guy, Slayton's definitely the best fantasy asset on the Giants so far this season. Him and Gallman would be great in the right matchup. This isn't that matchup. Probably next week for the Giants ain't that matchup either, but Gallman would be great in a good matchup. He actually smashed last season when he came in for Saquon Barkley for a couple of weeks. So I always thought it was weird that they brought in Devonta Freeman because Wayne Gallman was really good in the role. And I think Wayne Gallman, no matter what happens in this game, catches 5 passes. So I think he's got a great, great floor. That would be probably my top pick for one-off Giants turd. You play Daniel Jones if the salary is there just because he runs around a little bit. Quarterbacks have a decent to high floor. He'd probably get you 10, 12 fantasy points even in a bad game. Maybe not. But he's one of the ones that we have to consider. And Slayton's got the big play. Evan Ingram, of course, I think has the best matchup of all of them, just playing the tight end role. And Shepard is the possession guy. So all of those guys are going to be in play. Even Caden Smith is a super turd. Now, let's talk about the cheat sheet. Let's talk about who are some of the potential captains. Now, I already said that for me, I think one of the best captains this week is going to be Leonard Fournette. He's going to get a lot of passing game work. The game just sets up best really, for the running backs on Tampa because Tampa's supposed to smash this game. So it sets up best for a Fournette. Ron Jones Jr. is in that mix. Now, who else is in the mix? Well, take a look at this is Josh DFS Up North's spreadsheet, and he goes over all of them and kind of gives you some different possibilities. Tournament, Tom Brady. Yeah, Tom Brady's been great. One of the things about Brady is he spreads the football around. Yeah, he's shown elite upside because how much he spreads the ball around. He's only been outscored by a wide receiver twice this year. This is what got us on Goff a couple of weeks ago. So against the Chargers and Bears, and has gone over 30 twice. He should, if he smashes here, and the terrible defense, 15% captain, 50% of the flex, tons of pay down value to make him work. So Tom Brady tends to outscore his pass catchers. That's what he's done this season. So he makes for the rare, great captain play. Again, I think the wind has an effect on all of this, but not that much. We're not going to worry about it too much. I'm more looking at the wind as like deep play ball to Mike Evans might not be that great, but that doesn't mean a crossing pattern to Scotty Miller, especially a guy like Tom Brady. Again, he is not a player who has been negatively affected by wind throughout his career. He plays in New England. It's always windy. It's always nasty, and he was awesome. So I'm not worried about it. And again, we don't know how much wind is going to be. We can't even worry about it too much. Just know it's there, but don't let it like make you crazy, if that makes any sense. All right. Other names. Mike Evans. Evans is going to be... Now, again, we have two conflicting things working against one another. I'm not saying do not play Evans. Let's be clear. I think Evans is going to be higher owned than maybe what he should be. So Godwin is out. And Evans is the clear alpha at the wide receiver position. But even with Evans being the clear alpha, Evans has gotten a lot more targets in games where Godwin was out. That's what happened. Evans is a talented guy to the point where he can beat great coverage. He's a big guy. And if you throw it up to him, he will probably come down with it. So Evans, even in a tough matchup against a very good corner, can have a great game. We want to get some exposure to him in our captain spot as well. But just some. he hasn't been the guy who's outscoring Brady. He hasn't been the guy who smashes slates open this season, really, for the most part. So get some exposure there, but maybe not even as much as the field. It looks like the field will be about 10%. That's fine, actually. Daniel Jones, I really don't see using him here personally. He could run for enough to score some points, but I mean, this Tampa defense is probably going to beat the shit out of him. Yeah. So now we get to Ron Jones Jr. Ron Jones Jr. is perfectly fine play. By the way, you can play a game. You can make a scenario where Leonard Fournette gets hurt again and Jones Jr. just gets the full workload and smashes. You got to have exposure to that. Players are getting hurt in game at a ridiculous pace this year. So I need some, I think with Fournette in there, I don't like Ron Jones Jr. as much, but it doesn't mean Ron Jones Jr. can't punch in 2 touchdowns at the goal line in this game either. He's going to be a running back in a game script for the Bucs that heavily favors running backs. There are 2 guys who are 1A and 1B. Just saying, play them both. Hell yeah, we're going to play them both in the same lineup. Hell yeah. So with the 1A and 1B, this type of game script, with the way that the Bucs are favored, with the way their defense is, everything screams running backs will smash here. So Ron Jones Jr., perfectly good. Here are some of the other ones that Josh has identified as potential captain plays. Again, these are on DraftKings, although the translation of Fanduel is not that different. I probably don't play any wide receivers on Fanduel, though. I probably stick only to the running backs and Brady. But Scotty Miller, fine. 20% last week. We saw it. How much we're loading up on Tampa defense, Steve. We're loading up on them. Not 100%, but their upside, their expectation here should be right about the same as any position player. They could win the whole thing, and we want Tampa in the captain spot here. We want to get some Tampa captain. Defense, captain. Yes, I'm going to do that. All right, Sterling Shepard. So Sterling Shepard, if the Giants are moving the football, Sterling Shepard is probably the best bet to consistently move the football, and he's got a lot of floor. He's going to get plenty of targets in this game. I like Sterling Shepard in this spot quite a bit. 28% target share last week. Perfectly fine matchup. The Giants are going to be throwing. Yes. 4 to 5% captain, 20% flex for Josh. I agree with that. Those numbers. Evan Ingram, another guy that we're going to take some shots with here. Evan Ingram's been pretty bad this year, but as far as his role, I think it's the best matchup on the Giants team for whatever that's worth. He could catch a touchdown. If somebody's going to do it, I kind of have a feeling it might be Ingram for the Giants. He hasn't had a big game yet this season, but the Bucs are a little bit more vulnerable to tight ends, middle of the field, Tampa 2, all of that stuff. So I don't know if I love him as a captain play per se. I probably won't have very much, if any. I probably won't pull that trigger, but I don't mind if you do. I just probably won't, but I like him as a flex play and the one-off Giant. I don't think I'm going to play any Giants as captain, to be honest. And then finally, Leonard Fournette. He's probably my favorite of all of these guys. He's going to get passing game work. He'll get goal line work. The game just sets up well for running backs in general for the Bucs. So I'm going to get some Leonard Fournette exposure as captain for sure, and definitely in the flex. So right now on DraftKings, the way I want to go, honestly, it won't be that common. 4-2 will be the most common. People have a hard time pulling the trigger on a 5-1. They just mentally have a hard time. Will Brady have 2 touchdowns? Somebody's getting 2 touchdowns. He probably will. But if he didn't, then those running backs are scoring and that defense is scoring like crazy. Odds makers say the Bucs will score 4 touchdowns in this game. Where do they come from? We'll see. We'll find out. The Giants don't have a good defense, so you can score on them any way you want. All right, let's keep going with this. I don't really need any Giants as my captains, which makes it easier to mass multi-enter, fewer choices. We've narrowed it down to where Brady On FanDuel, you almost always want to leave some salary on the table. Could be. Yeah, and Antoine's saying 5-1. Yeah, it could be. All right, so let's look at some props here. I love using the DFS Army prop finder tool because I say things about running backs, but let's really try to understand this as best we can. So Leonard Fournette, 44 yards rushing. Okay, nothing special. 11.5 rushing attempts over. Okay. Receiving yards. This is hit this, guys. Bet this. Bet over 18.5. You want to make this bet. Like bet this prop. That's a good one. I expect he will have receptions made over 2.5. I will bet the over as well for Fournette. He's going to be out there. They're going to be throwing to him. He's definitely going to have more. I mean, not definitely. I would bet this over as well. And go to MGM because DraftKings has it at -180. You can get it cheaper at -161. If you want to know where this tool is, you go to dfsarmy.com and you click on the prop finder tool. You can do this for everything. Is it blurry? Hang on. Let me make it bigger here. You don't need to see me. So if you're looking at this, it's DFS Army prop finder tool up top over here, and you can type in the names. So let's look at Ron Jones. Jay, man, you could bet props everywhere, bro. That is not true. All you got to do, you can't bet with these books, but jump on one of the other sites, Bet Online, MyBookie. As a matter of fact, if you're in DFS Army, just DM one of our staff. They'll set you up. I play on, I don't know if I'm not going to say it on a YouTube, but I'm in New York, so I bet props, but whatever. All right. So taking a look at Ron Jones Jr., here's what we got. 61 yards. Okay. Receiving yards, 9.5. I don't like the over on that. I kind of like the under on that. I don't know if he's going to catch any passes. To score, I forgot to look at to score a touchdown for Fournette, but they're giving him about a 50-50 shot, +100, +110 of scoring a touchdown. 2 touchdowns plus 650. No receptions total prop because he's not likely. So Ron Jones got a +110. Let me go back to Fournette. I forgot to look at his score a touchdown, or they don't have it. +170. So they're giving Ron Jones Jr. a higher prop for scoring a touchdown. Okay. By the way, if you're going to bet this prop, bet it on FanDuel at +170, get 100, bet 100, you get 170 back. I like his chances. I would bet this prop. Again, not on PointsBet, not on MGM where you only get 120 back, but you want to bet this on FanDuel where you get $170 back for your hundy. Yeah, guys, if you sign up for any of these books and you're not in one of the states where you can, again, DM us on Twitter or some shit because we have all kinds of shit going on where you get SportsBet Army memberships. We give you all the picks and it's just a much better way, and we give it all for free when you sign up. So there's like awesome benefits for signing up for the first time to MyBookie or Bet Online. All you have to do, make sure you just DM us somewhere on Twitter, in Slack, and DFS Army Slack, on Twitter. Not me, the DFS Army account. Don't hit me up. I'm busy. Don't hit me up. All right, where were we? All right, we're breaking down this game. So we're on FanDuel now. Let's just finish up FanDuel and talk about all these potential players. We talk about captain slot. A really great one is Fournette. You can do a Tom Brady captain. Again, you start to build your lineup and you see, all right, who is the turd from the Giants that we can mess with? You can, Wayne Gallman is great. I don't love the Giants defense is playable. Giants defense has been pretty good. You talk about a one-off turd. Giants defense with Bucs defense. I never do that. I would do that here. Evans is just, he sucks also, Kendrick. I mean, that's what scares me about Evan. Evan. No, Evans is good. I thought you meant the tight end for the Giants. Yeah, Evans and Bradbury coverage, dude. That should bother you too. Uptown Extras guaranteeing a touchdown. You know what? Let's take a look at the props finder for Mike Evans. Let's see what the money says. Evans probably can score a touchdown because, again, he's that kind of guy. So the props say over 48.5 yards. Under 4 receptions. Wow. Look at the touchdown prop. Look at the touchdown prop, man. By the way, again, shop your props if you're not doing that, if you bet them. But on Fanduel, they have it plus 110, but over at MGM, man, they're trying to rip people off here. Minus 220. Do not bet that. Oh my goodness. That's ridiculous. Again, every time I look at this tool, man, I'm just like I'm just like, how could you not shop your props if you bet them? Like, you just be losing so much money. But under 4.5 receptions. So 4 receptions. 4 receptions. 50 yards and a touchdown. That's what they're calling for Mike Evans. And that sounds about right to me. But let me get my face on screen because I want to be sincere. Let me look in the camera. 4 receptions, 50 yards, and a touchdown. And a 50-50 shot at the touchdown. What does that get us? 50 yards, 5. 4 receptions, that's 9. And a half and a 50% shot at a touchdown. That's 3. 5, 9, 12 fantasy points. That's what the projection should be for Mike Evans in this game. 12 fantasy points. Is 12 fantasy points enough to pay off his salary, to smash, to, no, probably not. So just be aware of this. Uptown Extra's got a bet for us, man. Mike Evans TD and Bucs win. $200. I don't know. You put 100, you get back 2. Brahmanan, this happened to me once. A neighbor put their dog fucking shit in my garbage can. But what made it worse, I put it out front. What made it worse was the garbage had been picked up. So now there's a little bag of fucking turd in my garbage can. It's not the public can. It's not the public garbage can. It's my fucking garbage can. I saw that shit, caught it on the ring. And then you know what happened? I confronted that motherfucker and showed him the video of him putting his garbage, his dog shit, on my can. And I got a lot of apologies. So, bro, you don't want to be putting your shit in someone else's can, because if they got the ring, they're going to catch you. And then you're going to have a very uncomfortable conversation. Of course, we shook hands and made friends. And, oh, no, it's all fine. But, in the future, if you don't mind not putting your dog shit in my can, that'd be really, really nice. But meanwhile, under my breath, I was cursing that motherfucker. I wanted to fight him, but I didn't because I'm old. And I get injured just by even walking down the block. I get injured. I can't fight anybody. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the real me would take the shit back to the neighbor's house and smear it all over their door and be like, I brought you something. You forgot it at my house. And I'd have it squished all over their fucking door so that when they touch the handle, they got their own fucking shit. All right. We're talking about a breakdown of a game here. You guys are getting me off the rails. We still got a lot to talk about. What about my turds, right? Where my turds at? It's the name of this breakdown. Hold on. All right, where are my turds at, guys? So we already talked about a lot of the possibilities on the slate. We're going to load up on the Buccaneers side of the ball. We like Leonard Fournette. We like Ron Jones Jr. We like Tom Brady a lot. Those are our primary trio. You could play some Mike Evans. You could play a little bit of Scotty Miller, right? And now we got to get to the turd zone. Where are the crappy plays? Who are the shitty players that might win somebody a tournament tonight? Mickens. Who the fuck is Mickens? Kenny G is usually right. I don't even know who Mickens is. So, you got me messed up, man. Who's Mickens? Jay Mickens. Jay Mickens, guy has never seen a target. He got 2 targets week 2. There's a turd, guys. Let me ask the turd detector what we think about. Now, that doesn't mean you can't play him. But we do have a tool that lets us know what we think of a turd. What do you think of Jay Mickens?
Hell no, to the no, no, no. Yeah, to the no, hell to the no, to the no, no, no.
Listen, the turd detector is not always right, but it usually is. I'm getting some great ones here. Caden Smith, love it. We just talked about Caden Smith. He's going to be on the field the whole game. Let me paint a scenario for you, okay? Evan Ingram, who's soft and can't catch a pass anyway, got the willies, got the Jimmy hands, can't catch a pass. He gets hurt. Caden Smith steps up. He's a better tight end than Evan Ingram. Mark my words. So Caden Smith, I like that turd. That gets a thumbs up, man. Tanner Hudson, all right, so another guy, pretty turdly, not going to lie. But he's getting targets. We're going to give him a turd detector, little turd. Sometimes, just because he gets a hell no, doesn't mean that you can't play him.
Hell no, to the no, no, no. Yeah, to the no, hell to the no, to the no, no, no.
I actually like the Tanner Hudson call. Again, these are 2%ers, 1%ers. Don't get too crazy. LaShawn McCoy, that's a no. Justin Watson, again, yeah, we're going to have some exposure to him. He's going to be on the field. Dion Lewis, if he's going to be 10% owned, I want to be under that. The only way Dion Lewis has a good game is if Wayne Gallman gets hurt, and then Dion Lewis needs to be out there. Got to have some exposure. Jaden Mickens came over from the Jaguars. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, this is another, man, you need 2 RBs getting injured, Jay Hakimi, for this to work. You need like Fournette and Ron Jones Jr. to get hurt before LaShawn McCoy and Keyshawn Vaughn. There's too many. No. LaShawn McCoy.
Hell no, to the no, no, no. Yeah, to the no, hell to the no, to the no, no, no. Listen.
It's a no to LaShawn McCoy. Fuck Shady. No. All right. Who else? Cameron Brate. Yes. You see it? Hell yes. Yeah. Hell to the yes. We're going to play some Cameron Brate. Going to catch a touchdown. Gonna win somebody a tournament. Thumbs up. Cameron Brate. I like Cameron Brate. Giants defense. Yes. All right. Let's jump. Let me look at the sheet and see if there's any turds down here that we missed. Yeah, Caden Smith, like Keyshawn Vaughn. That's probably instead of Shady. I mean, the injury scenario or the blowout. Hey, let's bring in the turd at the end. That's Keyshawn Vaughn. So if you needed some of that, that would be the guy. Gallman gets the majority. Lewis fumbleitis, blah, blah, blah. The reality is Dion Lewis is really something that would work if Gallman gets hurt, which is never out of the question. Running backs get hurt like at 20%. Guys, I'm going to jump to Fanduel in a second because I want to cover it. We're going long here because we're having some fun with dog shit and talking about things that have nothing to do. But somebody could get me number. This is the number I want to see. How often has a lead wide receiver or running back gotten in-game injured this season? And especially in a showdown. I'd love that stat. I mean, my memory is very clear that it happens quite a bit. Austin Mack did not make the turd list for DFS up north. I don't like him very much, but again, anything can happen. You know, with again, the Giants running 2 tight end personnel and with Shepard back and with Tate there, it's just a really, really thin play. All right, let's take a look at FanDuel real quick. FanDuel is much more. Oh, well, we don't have a breakdown, so I will give you my own breakdown here. FanDuel is much more straightforward, guys. And the reason is the MVP spot, we don't really have the PPR bonus or anything crazy going on here. Our top play at FanDuel MVP is going to be Tom Brady, T-Brad. Okay? Very simple. FanDuel wants touchdowns more than anything else. Quarterbacks score more than anybody else. If you look at Brady's performance and his game logs, 36, 14. I mean, the floor is there. The ceiling is there. No one on this team even came close to 36 fantasy points last week against the Raiders, and Tom Brady outscored them all this week too. Tom Brady tends to outscore his position players, as DFS Up North Josh points out in his notes. That dude is fucking money with his notes. You got to read it every time. Make sure DFS Army, if you're a DFS Army VIPs, you need to go to those cheat sheets and read the notes, the breakdowns. We spent a lot of time putting that together for you. All right, so a lot of people don't look at the notes. They're only looking at core or how many stars. Forget the stars. It's really hard even for me to put stars on a play. As a matter of fact, I just want to talk about something. I had the Dolphins defense as my top cash defense yesterday, and somebody came back to me and said, well, you wrote cash defense, but you only put 3 stars on them, and you had 5 stars on the Chiefs and the Bills. It's like the Chiefs and the Bills are fucking over 4K. We're not using them. If you had the money, go for it. The Dolphins was the pay down defense. Will I consider Bucs defense? Hell yes. I want Bucs defense. Bucs defense might be one of the best captain plays of them all. We're going to play them at the MVP. You can't play defense on FanDuel. You're going to play them at the captain on DraftKings. You're going to play them in the flex a lot. Bucs defense is a very good scoring defense. Not 100%. They're priced like a position player. Yeah, the Dolphins were the reason why people cashed their cash games, because the rest of it, yesterday was a disaster, but if you had Dolphins defense, you still cashed your cash games, and that's all that mattered. That's all I care about. That's the number one thing I care about. I don't care about, I love to win tournaments. Took down a tournament last week. It was awesome. That's really what I play the season for, but I don't get through an NFL season without cashing my cash games. And so that I judge myself based on did I cash in my cash lineup this week? That's how I judge if I'm doing well at DFS, and that's how you guys should. If you're judging yourself based on if I won a tournament this week, you're going to judge yourself harshly. This is the DFS Army way, man. You guys know this. Didn't need Dalvin Cook in cash yesterday. No one had him. Yeah, Players Club. Marvin Jones was awesome. Yeah. I mean, we knew. That's a matchup thing. And that matchup situation with Xavier Rhodes and of course, Galladay got hurt. So, I mean, I don't know if it's a great call, but Xavier Rhodes, I think, got hurt in that game. Like, a lot of people got hurt in that game. But, yeah, it worked out. A little lucky guess. All right. Tom Brady, top guy. If you want to play Daniel Jones at MVP, I don't think I would, but, okay. He runs it. He had a good game last week. He runs the football a lot, but, I mean, he's also very bad this season. I thought he was a good player. Jones has looked better with Sterling Shepard back. He needed Sterling Shepard. So he's looked a little better. But again, this is a really, really rough matchup. This is a Tampa defense. Now, by the way, Tampa could come flat. So whenever what we're looking at is the most obvious approach. Tampa defense could come in flat. Who the fuck knows? It's NFL football. Weird shit happens. But I mean, if you can make lineups for all scenarios, but what we're trying to do is kind of get the most likely thing and build around it. There we go. 13.5% of the time, running back gets injured in game. Do you know how frequent that is compared to how hard it is to win a showdown? So, you got a 1 in 50,000 chance of winning a showdown, but 13.5% of the time, the lead running back is getting hurt, according to Richard here. Yeah, Gronk. We love Gronk. So Gronk is a touchdown scorer, but Tom Brady's your top guy. I think the running backs, Ron Jones and Leonard Fournette. Lenny Fournette is not going to be played. Check this out. People don't like to play cheap players in the captain spot on FanDuel, and that gives us an edge. It's just one of those things. People don't like it. They want to play the most expensive guy because you don't have to pay extra. So that gives us an edge. Check out the ownerships for Lenny Fournette in the MVP spot. It's going to be low. Look who they're taking. Tom Brady, Daniel Jones, Mike Evans, Ron Jones Jr., fine, Slayton, Goldman. Everybody's ahead of Leonard Fournette. by a lot. So this is where you can get some edge. This is where you can get some edge with Ron Jones Jr. as well. Maybe these guys are going to split and take from each other. Maybe it is Mike Evans or one of these other guys that get there. I think Tom Brady is the best overall play. We've heard it's blowing outside in New York. Just again, we've talked about this a couple times. It's blowing outside like crazy in New York right now. There's some forecasts that are saying crazy wind tonight. Other ones are saying it dies down a little bit. We'll have to check in and look at that a little bit more. The more wind there is, the more I'm excited about the runners, the less I'm excited about the pass catchers. But if it's down to 15 miles, 20 miles per hour, that's nothing. That's nothing for Tom Brady. Yeah, I mean, is it saying that, though, Jay, for tonight at 8:30, 9:30? That's what I care about. 21 mile with gust of 43. Tom Brady can throw in that. You can complete a pass, but it's not idyllic. You're going to want to lean on the run in that situation. Yeah, Fournette is just great in all formats. He's just the guy. Again, Ron Jones Jr. is great too. Fine. I just like the running game for the Bucs. Get a little Wayne Gallman, little Gallman brothers. I was going to play Ramblin' Man from the Allman Brothers, but I can't play music on these pods. Like, I can't play protected music and get kicked off of YouTube. And I'm not going to sing a fucking Southern fried rock song. I do rap. I don't do no singing of Southern music. All right. Except the Hell No song I sang. But I did a lot. I did the Hell No before. I don't like anybody else at MVP. That's it. It's going to be Ron Jones. It's going to be Brady. And if you want to take a little sniff of Daniel Jones, fine. I'll probably fade Mike Evans personally. I'm just going to fade it. You might say, why are you doing that? What if he wins? Okay. I faded Lockett the other day, and he took it down. And I didn't win any monies. I accept it. Giants D and Daniel Jones? Yeah, I think you can. I think you play Giants D. I think you play Daniel Jones. If you want to do a 4-2, yeah, you could do that. Daniel Jones is going to score some points. He's not going to come out of a game with a 0. He's got the football in his hand. He can run it. So he'd probably throw for a touchdown. Like I said, the Giants should get some points. I just don't think that Daniel Jones will have a good score for a quarterback. But yeah, and so, we're getting these different reports, right? That's nothing 10 miles per hour with guts to 25. That's nothing. That's ignore. If it's an ignore win situation, I like Daniel Jones a little bit more. I like the kickers quite a bit more, especially the kicker for Tampa. Who's the kicker for Tampa? We didn't even talk about him. And maybe the Giants kicker too, but Ryan Suckup, yeah, definitely. Graham Gano, sure. Both kickers. As long as the wind isn't crazy, we play these kickers. Probability of injury in game. I mean, these numbers, this is what I'm saying. We don't understand probabilities, and I'm trying to explain that on every one of these breakdowns, that the chance of a first-string running back getting hurt and the second guy coming in and smashing the nuts at low ownership is higher than what he's going to be owned, the second guy. And in this case of this game, I mean, we like both guys anyway. So, yeah, it's really good. This is important information. Again, I need to verify it, but where did you get this from, Riverette? Where's that information coming from? I'm curious. So the less wind, the more we can kind of get down with Daniel Jones, the more we can get with like Sterling Shepard. But again, on FanDuel, we want touchdown scores. So keeping that in mind, Gronk, great play, scores touchdowns. The two running backs for the Bucs and Tom Brady. And then we mix in a little bit of Daniel Jones, a little bit of Mike Evans, certainly Gallman, Miller's fine, Evan Ingram, the same group. I don't know if you get to squeeze a turd in there or not. We'll have to see how salaries. Well, let's say, all right, let's see what the salaries do. Let's say I think Fournette is, all right, Fournette is cheap, $10K. Yeah, Ron Jones Jr., that's a double. Okay, now we need somebody from the Giants. How about the kicker? You throw the kicker in there. You don't really have to put a turd in. Gallman, Scotty Miller. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this right here. I kind of like that. That's your one Giants player. You can go different. You can get You can get that going. Little Gronk, he's a touchdown scorer. Now we still need a player from the Giants. Go Sterling Shepard, Evan Ingram, any one of these. Graham Gano. Just mix it up. Make all three. Richard, it's between, they don't have an RB1, but I consider Fournette to be the RB1 at this point. He had more snaps last week, but it's Ron Jones Jr. and Leonard Fournette. They're going to have, Leonard Fournette sets up better than Ron Jones Jr. because Fournette is the passing down guy. Ron Jones Jr., though, in this game could eat. So don't sleep on either guy. Yeah, Antonio Brown will be next week. He will not play tonight. Guys, that's going to do it for the Where My Turds At breakdown. Again, my favorite turd, I think I'm going to go on the Giants side. I'm going to go Caden Smith. I'm interested in Caden Smith if you need a super turd in there. But again, these turds are 5%ers. This is not that kind of a game where you need to get that crazy with your plays because the salaries are pretty open, especially if you're willing to go a little bit lighter on Mike Evans than the field. Yeah, definitely play both Tampa running backs, guys. All right, that's going to do it for this Where My Turds At breakdown. Good luck tonight. I also want to mention if you're playing the primetime slate, the 2-gamer Monday to Thursday, that while I still like the running backs from this game, the Thursday game is very, very much more interesting from a fantasy scoring perspective. So if you do play that slate, which I think I'm going to, I really like it, we want to focus on the players from the Thursday slate, San Francisco and the Packers side, Rodgers, Aaron Jones, all of that, not Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams, all of that side of it, and then bring it back maybe with some of the running backs from the 49ers, J-Rock McQuinnan, a.k.a. Jerick McKinnon, and JaMychal Hasty, now that it looks like Tevin Coleman is hurt again. So if you're playing that 2-gamer, focus on that game. Get a little bit of action here, but more on the running back side. Don't go too crazy. Gronk, I like the tight end from this one. All right, good luck, everyone. Let me see any more questions before we get through. Yeah. What do I do with Garoppolo? You don't play him. Garoppolo's finished. You don't fucking play him. It's going to be Nick Mullins. That's the quarterback going forward. Garoppolo is finished for the 49ers, I think, period. I don't think we'll see him again. Oh, little hint for DFS Army VIPs. My man Hunter's coming out with some fucking mad scientist tool for showdowns. Some pretty exciting stuff. Coming soon. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, Coleman played. He got hurt again, so don't worry about that guy. Yeah. All right. Good luck, everyone. Wait. Let's crush. Helmets up.